Good evening, everyone. This is the June 18th meeting of the Revere City Council. Would everyone please rise to salute the flag?
Roll call of the members. Councilor Guanasso. Here. Councilor Keefe.
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morabito.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky. Here. Councilor Patch.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo. Here. Councilor Rotundo. Here. Councilor Zambuto.
Here.
Here. And Council President Janino.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
At this time, I'd just like to take a point of personal privilege and offer a moment of silence. This week, the city lost a beloved resident, Eileen Marullo. She dedicated a great deal of her life to commemorate the women who served in the armed forces, and there's a beautiful monument on the lawn at the Legion that we can forever remember her and the women that she fought to make sure were represented. So at this time, I'll just ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. At this time, I'll ask for suspension of rules. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. I'd like to take up calendar item number 19, please.
Calendar item number 19, communication from the mayor relative to the fiscal year 2019 budget.
Mr. Mayor?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the council. Tonight I formally submit for your consideration the City of Revere's budget proposal for fiscal year 2019. And I'll say it at the outset that I do so with confidence that the process to compile the budget was careful, thorough, and receptive to the requirements of each and every one of our departments. I want to take a minute to thank the finance team, especially Director of Finance George Anzoni, City Auditor Richard Visquet, and everyone in their departments for helping put together a great budget. The budget submitted to you certainly spares no critical expense, but it does not waste a dime. And so if, Madam President, you'll allow, I'd like to go through some of the highlights that we have in the fiscal year 2019 budget. First and foremost, we have increased the staffing in the long-neglected Department of Public Works. We are going to add 5 additional laborers, and this has been a priority in my administration since day one. We've made sure to get the DPW a contract, first and foremost. Got them equipment, with the council's help, close to $2 million in new equipment. We've added some additional laborers on the water and sewer side, and now we are going to add 5 additional bodies on the DPW general side. And the idea behind that will be to increase our sanitation folks, our parks folks, and our highway crew. So I understand, and I think all of you have a special appreciation for the fact that maintaining public infrastructure is one of the critical aspects of municipal government, and I am proud that this budget improves our ability to meet public demand. In terms of other priorities, obviously public safety is always a priority, and it's clear that the city answers probably no higher calling than providing safe neighborhoods for our families and children. And so public safety is always a priority and always a concern for the residents of our city. And so I am proud to say that we are I've proposed to increase the staffing levels for both the police department and the fire department, adding 3 new police officers and 4 new firefighters. And one more highlight that I want to make is the dedication of $150,000 for our ability to control the rodent issues that are rampant in our city. This week, I think you'll find more information coming out in terms of our immediate steps that will be taken to create an integrated pest management program. And as part of that program is the $150,000 that will be dedicated in this next year's budget. And in addition is the inclusion of a uniform trash barrel program. And that is through the new trash and recycling enterprise fund that we created. And the idea behind that is to, of course, address the primary cause of rodent infestation, which is the careless disposal of trash. And finally, obviously you see a big check and some information about our water and sewer rates. Part of this budget does include a 3% reduction in water and sewer rates. I am proud to present, on behalf of the City of Revere, a $2 million check to our ratepayers. This 3% decrease will be the first water and sewer rate decrease that our city has seen in 19 years. And the details of that, as I think all of the councilors understand, we had a $5 million surplus in our water and sewer enterprise fund. The $2 million that you see is a reinvestment of that free cash to our residents. I have been very clear that we have to create a smarter, more efficient government for the people of our city, and that our residents do deserve the best. And when the city benefits from investments that it makes, and we've benefited from the investments of a new water meter program, we've benefited from the investments that we make each and every day in our water and sewer system, I believe that the residents should share in those savings. So it is kind of a proud moment for me to be able to stand up here before you and say that we responsibly can reduce water and sewer rates 3%. I will say that over the last decade, our ratepayers have seen a 60% increase in their rates. 60%, 60. So while 3% is modest, and I understand that, it is a step in the right direction, and I am excited to be able to present that to you. I want to close by commending the staff who worked tirelessly to prepare this budget, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you on our joint venture to enhance the quality of city government and, of course, the quality of life for the residents of our city. If any of you have any questions, I'm available. I know we're going to be having an extensive number of Ways and Means hearings that I look forward to being a part of also. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any councilors? Councilor Rotundo?
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, I'd like to know when I'm going to get the audit. Since you're here, I figured I'd ask you. I got a response by the clerk saying that you were in a deliberative process. This is a public product. Policies will be public. Your exemption right now is with the Secretary of State, in which I'm challenging it. I will challenge it in court if I have to. I don't believe any other mayor that I've ever dealt with or served with has ever treated me in such disrespect or tacit rudeness.
Councilor Rotundo, we're on the budget.
I understand that, but
Okay.
that was part of the budget. It was a 30B product. It was part of the audit that he had conducted, and that is part and parcel of a budget.
Thanks, Councilor. I've been clear with you that the report is not done yet. I've shared with you the scope that we put together that we shared with you back in February when I came to the council and asked for that money. And
Madam President,
unfortunately...
Point of order.
Councilor, he didn't interrupt you. Would you let him finish his response?
I understand
and then
that,
you can have your
but
point?
it's being misleading here. February of 2016, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Not February.
Unfortunately, and I hate to call you out like this, Councilor, but unfortunately, you've let politics seep into what we're here doing tonight. And we have some great things that are happening and great announcements that are happening for our ratepayers who have seen significant increases in their ability to live day to day. And the fact is, we are doing the people's business in this chamber, and there's no room for politics, in my opinion. Thank you.
I'm just
Thank you,
wondering
Mr.
how
Mayor.
asking for a budget is part of politics.
Do any other councilors have any other questions?
Madam President, just to be clear, the report is in draft form, and when it is done, it will be shared with the entire council.
2 years for an audit is unheard of, period.
Councilor, you made your point. Please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other councilors have any other comments on the budget? Well, we look forward to the budget meetings and for the edification of the community. They're coming up this week. There'll be a budget hearing on the 20th at 5 p.m. and the 21st at 5 p.m. in this council chambers, and those will be televised as well.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. This will be referred to Ways and Means. This time, I'd also like to take up, while we're under suspension, calendar item 19, I believe? 15.
Calendar item number 15, communication from the Director of Finance relative to the fiscal year 2019 water and sewer rates.
Yes, good evening. At this time, the Superintendent of Public Works has decided under the Chapter 13.8, Section 1308 of the City Ordinance of Revere, a new water rate, and he gets this decided without the council approval, a new sewer rate. As in my communication, I said I did want to change one thing in there, is that these rates are not as of July 1st, 2017, they're as of July 1st, 2018. If the council adopts the rate, the way the rate is set, it's set so much for the water and so much for the sewer, and normally, because the way past practices have been, the water rate and the sewer rate is almost 3 times, the sewer rate is almost 3 times the water rate. So if you look at it, and it says to the sewer rates will be $11.98 per 100 cubic feet for residential properties and $19.48 per cubic feet for commercial owners, effective for the billings of July 1st, 2018. The water rates is established will be $4.01 cubic feet for residential owners and $6.51 per 100 cubic feet for commercial properties. With this, if the council again agrees to this and passes this, it's $25.99 per 100 cubic feet for the commercial rate in total, and for the residential rate will be $15.99 per 100 cubic feet. These rates represent a decrease in the residential, as the mayor has said, of 3.09% over the current charge for residential, and the increase of 1.48 for the commercial rate. So I'm looking at this. This is something that needs to be passed tonight, and also the reason being is because it's always been passed on the first night, because we have to get the bills out, and we have to work on this and apply the rates into the software so that we can get ready to print out the bills for the July 1st date. So if you have any questions, it's been computed. I showed you I submitted in with my communication the computation sheet, and it'll tell you what is the total amount of assessments is for the water and sewer from the MWRA is $16,073,949. Our water and sewer operations alone, which would be the manpower, the machinery, the equipment, the pro rata cost for the employees, the health benefits, all the costs included is $10,328,424. We have a PSM program, which is a program where the outside meters, there's the black outside meters that we use, and there's an estimated amount of $300,000 that we normally use, about that amount each year for those people who use a outside water meter. And those outside water meters can be purchased from the Department of Public Works at City Hall, at the Water Department. There's a discount program for senior citizens that started for a number of years ago, and it's for $195,000. So total expenses for the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund is $26,897,37, $373. I should have worn my glasses. This is smaller writing than I normally read. I apologize. With that, you can see the computation that we use in order to get to our rate. It's the same computation that we have done for the last almost, I think it's not quite 20, I think it's 18 years, because this is the way it has to be computed once we started an enterprise fund. The enterprise fund that we have, Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, it's my pleasure to say, has always been a self-sustaining enterprise fund. This year we had to absorb some of the, some bond issues that we had to absorb because of the consent decree that was placed in the city of Revere by the DOJ and the Department of Justice, I should say, and the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. So with that, as you can see, there is a decrease in the residential rate of 3.09%, and the commercial rates increased by a 1.48%. There was a amount of $2 million that was used and placed into this computation that allowed the rate to be lowered, and that's from our free cash that we got as of June 30th, 2017. It was one of the higher free cash figures that we got in the that we received, the city had received in the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. I believe it was $4.5 million that we received, but there is an amount of some $3 million in the stabilization fund already. So with that, we're in a very comfortable state of saying, okay, using $2 million is not going to bring us into a terrible position or a position where we are putting ourselves in any type of financial danger. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Counselor?
Madam President, thank you. So we're taking money out of the Water Sewer Stabilization Fund, that big check that we saw here. That came out of the Water Sewer Stabilization Fund?
That's correct.
So that's ratepayer money, correct?
No, that came out of the free cash. Out of the free cash.
Well, the free cash, that's ratepayer money too,
Right.
right? Taxpayer money.
Right.
So, well, there's free cash and then there's the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund. Where did the $2 million come from?
No, free cash, there's two different types of free cash. There's free cash that the city receives for the general fund, when that's computed.
Right.
And then there's the free cash that's received by the enterprise fund, Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, and that's separately certified by the Department of Revenue.
So then that's ratepayer money, correct?
Well, it's money that we had because of the operations, how well the operations of the account ran.
Right, but how did the money, so, okay.
Well, it's paid by ratepayers.
Let me rephrase it.
Over cost.
Okay,
I
right.
understand that. It's
Right.
paid by ratepayers.
So we're taking the ratepayers' money, putting it back in to lower the rate, correct? Is that what we're doing?
Well, basically, if that's the way you look at it, you can, but free cash comes in for a number of reasons. Free cash not only comes in, can come from rates, it can come in because when we set the budget, then there could be a lowering of the assessments. There could be they don't charge you as much as they say you're going to charge. We use the figure that they have given us at this time. They may change that, and they have changed that in the past over the years. So that's what we're looking at. So,
Well, my only fear...
the revenue is, I just want to finish here, Council, is that the revenue is, from the main source, is from ratepayers that pay their tax, their water bill.
Right. Are there any other sources other than ratepayers where we get money into the water and
Not in the
sewer?
water and sewer fund, no.
Okay. So it's all ratepayer money. We're taking $2 million. You know, I have a point to why I'm asking this.
Okay.
So we're taking money out of the free cash or partially, I thought I read out of stabilization, but it's not out of stabilization?
No, it's out of the free cash.
It's out of free cash, okay. Now what happens if there's no free cash next year what's going to happen then? I
Well, we
mean,
have stabilization money that we can...
and then we're going to dip into that, and
We can
then
dip into that, or... it
at
may-
some point, when are the ratepayers going to see these rates just jump significantly?
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. I think that we are clear
We've
enough...
got
in
$8
what we're
million
looking
of loan orders with CDM Smith here tonight, so...
But here's part of the issue with that, is the fact that those are pushed off down the road as it always has been because of the consent decree. So we're not gonna hit that $8 million right now. It'll be spread over a 30-year period for the most part, Bob? Right. So it's gonna be pushed off for a 30-year period. We're not gonna see a large jump because of the fact that the increase in it's gonna, I hate to use the word stabilize, but that's the only word I can think of because I don't want to be confused with the stabilization fund. There'll be a stabilization of the rates at some point, but we are going to see, and we always knew we were going to see, a jump in the bond issues that we have to pay off. Now, I consistently speak to the SRF, the State Revolving Fund loans where we borrow, and also the other areas that we borrow from, the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust. And looking at that, and we ask, okay, can you give me a schedule of when you're going to borrow? But they don't have a schedule themselves. So what we look at is saying, okay, we know that we have this outstanding, and they, when all of the projects in a grouping are completed, that's when they decide that they have to, until then they just put interim loans out, and that's when they have to decide when they're going to finally serialize the loan. So that gets passed over 30 years, and some of the issues you may pass tonight may not be bonded until 5 or 6, 7 years down the road, and that'll be for a 30-year period. So at some point, that's going to be coming on board, but at the same time is again, you have a strong stabilization fund right now. You have approximately $2.5 million over the 3 million. So you have about $5.2 million that is into the account. And looking at it and what it has been in the past, you can see at least $2 million going in there, being certified for the in the coming future for the stabilization fund, for the free cash rather. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you,
George.
Counselor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Madam President. George, just a couple of things. I don't know if they're typos, but in both letters, it shows that the rates for the water rates is effective billing of 2017. Is that correct?
That's what I just corrected at the beginning. I said if you look at the...
Sorry.
If you look at where I have in the letter, I have it in two places. One says for
Right.
17, one says in the first paragraph for the billing of July 1st, 2018, and then at the end, the effective the billing 2018. That was a typo.
Okay.
And one that I
Good.
corrected at the beginning.
It's great that we're finally getting a reduction in our water and sewer rates. I have one question. When there is a break, a water break, and it's running for an hour, or you get service leaks that are not being recorded, where does that cost for the water go? Who pays for that?
The cost of the water...
How does it work?
It depends on where it breaks. But that cost of water will end up being paid for by the city, because they have meters throughout the city for both the water and sewer that they supply to the city, and that the city would end up picking up that amount for a water and sewer break. And that's all built inside of this. In case there is a break, there's not a lot of room, but there is some room because we realize there are breaks. But that's an assumption that we've made throughout the years, and we've been pretty much on target. Not that we can tell you exactly, trust me, I can't tell you exactly how much water they're going to use in a break, but we're getting to the point with this water meeting on the other end. I'm overseeing the AMR, the automatic reading system, and on the other end of that, we're making sure we're metering and working in conjunction with CDM. We're making sure we're metering every drop of water that comes into the city and then how it's used. So that's why once we get all the meters in, we're even doing our public buildings, we're doing churches, synagogues, and other areas of worship. We're doing, our schools, our city buildings. We just want to make certain we're even having contractors come up before they open up a water hydrant and pick up a water hydrant meeting that they can use. So we're going to be able to see exactly where our water's going. And CDM has identified the places where there are leaks and leaks happening, or where the piping is not up to snuff. And this, along with that, will help the city eventually get to a point where we know, one, exactly how much water we're using, and we'll be using the minimum amount of water. In fact, if you look at each year, and I had to go back this year because I was surprised, the amount of water that we use this year is up there at 1,410,100 cubic feet. That's been that for the last 2 years. This year, I'm estimating again, the one, I'm using that as my amount of sales, so to speak. Looking at that, that has gone down because I remember a couple of years ago, and it's only been a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5, that number was up to 1.6 million cubic feet. So there's two things going on. One, we're metering our water, making sure our water is that would be delivered is being utilized in the proper way. And there's a lot of conservation by people, or the ratepayers, that are helping that situation out. And that's at the same time, and it was somewhat confusing to me because we've had much more building going on and many more people. So with all of that, this thing is working. So that's what we look at.
And George, that includes the parks also?
That includes sprinklers and everything. We have those sprinklers in there, and then we take them out in the winter. We were going to put new AMR meters, but there was no need because we can just go down and read the parks and the rotaries, and we have those pulled out for the winter so they don't freeze. So we're actually going to continue using the old meters on that because the new meters are very accurate, but there's no need to read them because we can just send somebody down to read them. So it's a cost-saving method, but we're still metering them.
And one last question. When we talk about the meters from contractors, does that include the ship money that the ships use at the oil farms?
Well, I'll tell you what we've done is we've gone to Global and, what is the other company down there? The oil company, the other coal company, pardon me? Irving. And we've told them that we want different meters put in. We want their meters raised up from underneath the ground because they're in pits. We actually are requiring them to pay for their meters because their meters are very expensive. And we're having them build a heated building so that we can see exactly how much water is being used when the ships put in for their balance. So we're doing those two things with Irving and Global.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo?
Thank you. George, how are you today?
Good. How you doing, George?
I'm all right.
Council.
A couple of quick questions just for the edification of the community. The MWRA, or the water and sewer fee, is basically a fee that is sent to us from the MWRA. Basically, they charge us for the water and sewer that we take, correct?
Right.
What's that number, generally speaking?
It's on in the sheet.
I know, I just...
Hold on a minute.
23...
So they give us an assessment. So their assessment for us is a top number of 16 million. Again, pardon me, I don't have my glasses. I should have. 073,948. So that's their assessment.
And then with the other part of it is actually the cost to run the water and sewer.
Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, that's correct.
And that's what, another 6 million?
That's another, if you look at the next line, it's another 10 million, 128, 424.
So
The total cost altogether is 26,897,373. That includes also, including those costs of the bond principal and interest payments, along with the staffing of the
So over the past
and the benefits.
4 years, it's exponentially grown from 23 to 26.
It has grown quite a bit. It has grown each year.
Thank you.
Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Madam President. George, I noticed tonight we're looking to bond $3.5 million for water
Right.
improvements down in Oak Island.
That's correct.
Okay. Would that in its entirety be picked up by as debt service by the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund at
That'll
some
be
point?
picked up by, I don't know if there's any principal forgiveness on that, but There may be some, and I know they do principal gifts, but we don't know that until after we get involved with it. So right now, the way I would have to answer you is that by saying, yes, it will be picked up by the ratepayers in the water and sewer fund.
A certain portion of it, not in its entirety, right? If there's forgiveness, then,
If we get the forgiveness.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know that, so we have to estimate that we will get it. But the other part of it too is that we may or may not get it. If we don't, but all of this is, would be, any portion of this that has to be paid would be picked up and absorbed into the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund.
thank you. And I guess my next question would be for CDM.
Is what? What's your next question?
As we expend money for water and drainage improvements throughout the city and sewerage improvements,
Yes, sir.
is it fair to say that a good portion of those monies will be saved by prohibiting the seepage of groundwater into the drainage system, which ultimately would be billed back to the city by the MWRA as sewerage?
That's absolutely 100% correct, Counselor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other councilors have any questions? Counselor?
Through you, Judge, my understanding is in years in the past, there was a percentage placed on the DPW workers that would actually work in water and sewer. Now that the mayor has separated both water and sewer, what is that number?
Oh, I don't have that number on top of my head, but there is still a percentage because,
Well, they're separated now. They're the
they're not
water
totally
and
separated.
sewer department, well, there are, because we've got two department heads.
Yes, but
So,
that's fine.
so those numbers are different, dramatically different.
That has been taken into account. What it is there's also a portion of my time that takes up, by my
Understand.
office.
The mayor's,
my
everybody,
offices, and everybody else's. So those are the portions that still remain in the budget.
Which is no problem. I want to know what the new FTE number is from the water and,
The new, I don't have it off, it's in your budget.
no, it isn't. The new FTE number is not, because that just happened.
Well, that's not true. Hold on a minute. That may have just happened, but the idea is that there has to be an amount in that budget in order for us to spend it on July 1st. So there's an amount in that budget that has been used. to
Right,
cover
it gives you a portion, it doesn't give you
Right.
the entire thing. So we've got 6 FTEs, whereas before you had a percentage of those FTEs because they were DPW employees. They weren't strictly water and sewer employees.
Counselor?
Well, the ones that were,
If I may, we're on the water and sewer rate. We can take that up when, in budget hearings, when we discuss the water and sewer department
Very well, we'll do so,
DPW
thank you.
budget. Thank you. Any other councilors have any questions pertaining to the rates? Seeing and hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call.
In accordance with provisions of Section 13.04.130 of the revised ordinances of the City of Revere, shall the City Council establish the following water rate, effective July 1st, 2018, $4.01 per 100 cubic feet for residential owners, and $6.51 per 100 cubic feet for commercial owners. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido? Yes. Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes,
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes,
Yes, the water rates have been established.
Yes, thank you, councilors.
thank you. All right, and while we're under suspension, I also just want to acknowledge some department heads that are in the audience this evening. We have Police Chief Guido, we have Mark from Veterans Affairs, Director of the DPW. We also have Nick from City Engineer. So any other department heads I missed? Sorry, I usually do that in the beginning. All right, this time we'll return to the regular order of business. Calendar item,
How about the new director? For Public Works.
thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we return to the regular order of business, there is a second vote on that water and sewer. We actually have to vote on the transfer of funds. So I'll have the clerk just read the formal. So they know.
Shall the City Council approve a transfer in the amount of $2 million from the water and sewer free cash to the water and sewer enterprise account? Is that, okay. Say it. No. Ask for roll call. Okay. Roll call on that motion. Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo? Yes. Counselor Rotundo? Yes. Counselor Zambuto?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the transfer has been approved.
This time we'll return to the regular order of business. Calendar item number 2.
Calendar item number 2, Comcast, National Grid, and Verizon will appear to discuss ongoing utility work relative to double poles and trenches.
If there are any representatives, if you could please approach. This time I'll open up to the councils. We'll start at this end. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Madam President. It's a pleasure to see you here, Dan, but I have, your group is driving me crazy. National Grid is all over Revere Street every day, every night. I'm having dreams about National Grid. Everywhere I go, National Grid is there. And unfortunately, we don't have enough police power because they create these detours. And thank God I know the city, because most of the visitors coming through our community don't know where they're going, because the detours stop at some point, and then you make your own determination where you go. And so, when is that project going to stop, and are they going to adhere to what we've been begging of you and everybody else that appears, Stan and group? The double poles, they're coming in by the ton, and I don't see any relief in sight, and they're even adding additional poles where there are no poles across the street. So Revere Street now looks like Poleville, and it's everything we have fought so hard for, Dan, and with your great effort and the insistence of the council. It's just maddening that when is National Grid going to do their project, get it done, and free us up somewhat? Because every turn I make, I bump into National Grid. It's got to stop at some point, because it's driving me crazy, and I'm sure it's driving every other citizen out there crazy. And that's some of the conversation. Most of the conversation I'm talking to neighbors and friends and people are saying, and we have so many serious issues going on. What's going on with this National Grid? You know, it's great advertising for National Grid, but it's in a negative fashion. What can you do to help us? I mean, I know that's your domain, but double polling is, and so they're creating double polls, so that's why I rise to the occasion to speak of this.
Thank you, Councilor. A couple of things. First of all, the existing double poll list is coming down. It's down to about a little over 100 polls, about 115 polls. But there is a tremendous amount of load growth out there. I'm sure you know by the amount of building that's going on in the city, and it's been going on for a while. So a couple of things, both on the gas and the electric side. You're talking on the electric side. You know, when the load growth hits a certain point, we do have to upgrade the feeder. You know, the feeder is like a circuit in your house. It starts out at a substation, which is like your circuit breaker in the house, and then it heads out and feeds a certain section of the house, just like a circuit feeds a certain section of the city of Revere. So we do have circuits that we have to upgrade, and when we do that, a lot of times we have to upgrade the poles. I guess the positive side of it is that, you know, when we are done, you have a lot more capacity. You have a system that's much stronger to withstand storms and so forth. We've seen a lot of evidence of that. You know, this year in March, we had some severe storms roll through here, and Revere did reasonably well compared to a lot of other communities because of all the infrastructure improvements. The same with the cities, you know, around here. You know,
Can I interrupt, Dan? My main focus on this is I know that you have it's an ongoing. I'd like to know when it's going to end, and when it ends, are these double poles going to be removed simultaneously as they're working on? Because they have enough construction crews here in the city to take down all these double poles overnight. There's enough people out there.
Our portion will be done this year, all right? The work that you're referring to right now. But behind us, obviously, becomes, you know, the fire department and Comcast and Verizon. And once they're transferred, then we can
We're going to have
remove
these
the
for about
poles.
10 years.
No, I don't think so. I think there's a concerted effort now with all work that we've been doing here over the last few years, that we'll be moving on this quickly.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. And I know when I call you, you answer, so I appreciate your response. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Dan. And thank you, Angela, for coming here. I have seen a little bit of a better progress report on the double poles. I was more concerned with, obviously, we met a few weeks back up in the Dale Street, Vane Street, and Arnold Street area. And I know that the work needs to be done, especially with the gas lines, to solve the leak issues that we're having. But one thing I just wanted to make sure that we all were clear on was when that work's being done and you're tearing up the road and you're putting the temporary trenches in, and then you have to put a quick pave over them. You know, if we can just make it that it doesn't have to be asked that the next day the street sweeper comes through, or that night, because cars that are parked in the driveways, they're getting pebbles off of them. There's a lot of dust, obviously, in the summer. I talked to a lot of neighbors. They're upset because they have to wash their car a lot more often. Their houses are getting a little dusty. So if we could just make it, part of the system is when that digging happens and they repave, if they can coordinate with the city to have the sweepers come through, I think it's the least you could do to help mitigate some of the issues of the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know we agreed to that.
We did agree to it
in
that area, in that neighborhood, and I think through the DPW it's now being done. But if you could maybe just put that as an automatic moving forward for every neighborhood, obviously. I appreciate you meeting me. You were very gracious in walking the entire site with me and very responsive, so thank you. But I would suggest that become the norm without having to be asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. Dan, thank you today for calling me, going over the list that I gave you the last time we were here, taking care of the multiple lights that are out, and talking about the streets that have been worked on by National Grid that are sinking, that you guys are going to take care of. So I really appreciate that. I just have one light that I need to give you. I know we talked about 77, pole 77, 76, and the one around the park, but this one is, I don't have the pole number. It's across the street on Winthrop Ave, 216. That's the address. The light's out. I guess it's been out for a while.
Okay.
Okay?
Across from 260 Winthrop Ave.
216.
216
Winthrop Ave.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for, I look forward to seeing some of these streets being repaved. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam President. Dan, Madam Comcast, I don't want you to feel left out. I just want to recognize that you're here.
I'm okay with this.
Dan,
here if you need me.
thank you for, coming down and look at my issues. And I think Councilor Keefe had some great ideas about the street sweeping, and that's something that I think Comcast should put in their contracts to their contractors that are doing gas work on the streets. The second thing is, which we talked about last week, was the storage of equipment on our city streets, especially the locations of some of the porta potties. Personally, I thought it was in bad taste, and so did some of the neighbors. But thank you for, having Devereaux move them, and that was appreciated by everybody. The storage of equipment on city streets, I know it's difficult in some cases, and we can only do so long. But I think in the future that National Grid, when they deal with Devereaux or whatever company they have, to look for outside storage for their equipment. Even maybe the larger equipment, the smaller stuff, we can probably deal with. But when you have flatbeds sitting there for 3-4 months not doing anything, I think those should be relocated back to their barn. And some of the other equipment that they don't use on a regular basis shouldn't really be on our streets. It not only is not attractive, but we don't get our streets cleaned, and it takes up a lot of parking spaces for the residences, especially overnight. So I would make those suggestions to you, and hopefully in the future your company will take those seriously from us. I would like to bring your attention to a pole on Nahant Avenue. We didn't get a double pole list this week.
No, I spoke to Stan. I have it, but I got it this afternoon. I can forward it to you tomorrow.
Do you have Nahant Avenue on your list?
I have it on my phone.
Oh, because, some work was done by Revere Fire, and I don't know if they made the transfer of whose ball and court it was. Because
Nahant Street.
Yeah. Right here. Behind Ave.
It's us.
It's
looks
you
like
now?
it's us
No,
on the
it's
list.
it's lower than you.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Unless I read it.
Because Revere Fire was on it, and I had them move it, but I don't know if they did the transfer on the computer. Because if they did, then I believe it could be Comcast.
National Grid.
Is it the same as?
Yeah.
Perhaps we can coordinate a little bit after the meeting to confirm where it is?
We can do that, I have
Okay.
no problem with that, but we can look at that one, because that's been waiting for a long time. And I talked to you about that 721 on Florence Ave, any idea when they're gonna make any transfers on that, because that's on you guys.
Okay. 721.
721 on Florence Ave. Okay, and thanks for all the other work, and hopefully I'll see some other action on the lights. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Patch.
Thank you, Madam President. Dan, thanks for your phone call this afternoon. And I know you got, we went over several problems that I have in my neighborhood. I have the same dreams that Councilor Granasso has. Washington Ave and Malden Street, it's just been a mess for months. And I just want, you did tell us that you're going to, I'll let you explain how you're going to solve that. But, I also have the problem, we've had a problem over June and in June, at the end of May, June, we had like 3 outages in that area of Washington Ave. And I don't know if this is going to be a constant problem, if it's going to be, if we have to update the equipment, your equipment or not. But I also have, I told you that there's a pole at the corner of Griswold. This pole, I think it has a big transformer on it, and I believe next to it is a big tree that might have to be, branches might have to be taken off that tree, or the tree might have to be removed. I know it's on private property, but it's actually the same, I think it's the same area that the tree fell, was it last year, that knocked everybody's service out, knocked down a couple of poles. I think that's going to be looked at more. I remember, my days as a police officer working details. You used to have the tree companies come around and make sure the wires weren't in danger. I haven't seen much of that lately, the last couple of years. I don't know if you still do that.
No, we do. It's each feeder is on a 5-year circle, 5-year trimming period. So sometimes we do the whole city at once, or we stage it. So we might be here 1 year and not here the next.
Okay. There's also a pole leaning at by the St. Mary's Church. I believe you got all this information.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're going to take care of it. But the concerns were the cleanup too, your subcontractors parking their vehicles on Lucia Street in Brenton, but you took care of Brenton. Brenton's no more, they're just parking on Lucia Street now, and they actually did a pretty good job cleaning up Brenton Street.
Yeah.
But hopefully what you tell me, you're going to be eventually hot topping from the middle of the street to the sidewalk where they're digging the whole, where they dug the trench. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, you know, I'll just wait and see. I mean,
Yeah, we're done.
I got
Yeah.
confidence in you that,
Yeah.
that this work will get done. And do you have an answer on these outages?
We did have, it's a pretty large feeder. It feeds part of Everett and part of, actually part of Everett, part of Malden, and part of Revere. We did have a temporary setup, and so when there was a cable failure, it actually took 2 circuits out. And then it happened, you know, about a month apart. But there's no chronic problem. Everything's been repaired. But on occasion, you might get an outage, and then, you know, within a month or so, there's another outage on the same circuit. It's just timing. But there's no chronic problem.
All right, again, you have any idea how long this Washington Street job is going to last?
I believe it's through the end of the summer.
That's amazing. When you started, it was only going to be a couple of months.
Yeah.
Detour, like I got the same as my colleague on Revere Street. You go to a detour to nowhere. You know, it's crazy. They've been putting up with it for, since last December?
Yeah, so just before the holidays, yeah.
So, I wish you could do your
Yeah,
best to get done with that work and...
Yeah, we'll be out of there, like I said, you know, could even be before but sometime this summer we'll be completed there, and then we'll let the existing trenches settle, and then we'll come in and do all the paving before the winter.
Okay. Stan's not here, but every time he is here, I bring up that Michael Road, the double pole. You have any idea if that's been straightened out yet? I'd like to see that disappear.
I checked on that again as of Friday, and I was told that they had a recheck scheduled for today to see if it was ready for transfer, so I can follow up with you to see how that went. It was on today's schedule again.
Oh, you guys, Comcast was going to do it?
So as far as I know, but I've checked on it several times at this point, so I just want to make sure that it's ready for transfer for us.
Well, I appreciate that, because it's been a while. And one last thing, Dan, that pole, you finally started to transfer the equipment on the pole that was taken down on Sergeant Street across from the dog park. You had a transformer on it. You finally swapped over the transformer. But I hope you can continue the process of transferring the rest of the wires so we can get that double pole out of there. I don't know who's next up on that.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know if it could be the fire department. I know which pole you're talking about. Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Counselor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have 2 questions, 2 requests maybe. At the top of at the top of Sagamore Street, at the intersection of Revere Street, several years ago, Mass Highway did that bridge over. And the configuration, if you're coming off of Revere Street, taking a right down Sagamore Street, it's very difficult to navigate because of the jutty that they put out when they did the bridge. They built it out, so it's it's very, you really have to stay to your left more. And with that said, it's very difficult to see traffic that's coming up there, pedestrians particularly, that might be walking up there. So what I'd like to request is that we get a light on that pole right there. That's very important. And the other thing is from Revere Street down to John Avenue, really, there are several light poles down there that are on 1A. They're just not working. not working, or what I think really needs to be done, I know they need a police detail down there, state police will Revere when they do that, but perhaps an easy solution, rather than have them one going this month and another one going next month, would be to go down there and just change every bulb. There's probably a couple of dozen poles on that stretch. Just change every bulb, and you probably wouldn't hear from them for a couple more years.
Council, what street are you talking with?
From Revere Street
Yeah,
to John Avenue, and that's on 1A, North Shore Road it's called, but it's 1A. And you're going to need a police detail down there while they do it.
okay.
But that would probably be a solution that would end for a while. People complaining about the poor visibility, and it is a dangerous area down there. That and the other one I mentioned previously would be a light on the pole. There is an existing pole there with no light. A light on the pole at the intersection of Revere Street and Sagamore Street, where you take a right near Billy T's there, you take a right and you go down Sagamore. Well, it'll be right on the corner where they rebuilt the bridge.
Okay,
So
if you
those
could
would
put that
be-
to a motion, and it'll come to me, and we'll get that.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McKenna?
Dan, I forgot to ask you, since everybody's asking you about work, Pearl Ave, they're telling the residents it was supposed to be like, I don't know, 3 weeks, and now they're telling them it's supposed to be until August. They upped the date on finishing the work. Now, I don't know if you guys are going on strike. That's what one of the residents told me, so they're just like kind of playing with the date. But they said August, and it was only supposed to be a 3-week work.
This is on Pearl Ave? is it?
Yes, they're
Yeah.
replacing the
All right,
gas
ju-
pipes.
Okay, we have 2 contracts that are expiring this Sunday evening. So like any, collective bargaining agreements, there's always a possibility it could be a work stoppage. So hopefully not.
Hopefully.
Right. But we'll know after this weekend.
Okay, great.
So, all right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Could you let me know,
I
please,
will.
so I could tell the
Yep.
residents?
Yeah, we'll be letting everyone know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Calendar item number 4.
Oh, actually, we just have to do calendar item number 3, approval of the journal of the regular meeting of June 4th, 2018.
All in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Public hearings, calendar item number 4, hearing called is ordered on a loan order in the amount of $3 million for Oak Island Water Main Improvements, DWSRF Construction Project, number 4405.
And I do want to preface these public hearings with that items 4 through 9 will all be going to the Ways and Means Subcommittee, so just everyone keep that in mind. They'll all be going to committee. But at this time, I'll call any proponents. Any proponents here this evening?
Paula Genzio, 245 Reservoir Avenue, Superintendent of Public Works. The first 2 items, can I speak on all of them, or do we have to take them each individually? I can.
They are in public hearings. You would have to take each one up separately, as they are separate public hearings.
Okay,
So-
that's fine.
You can sit right close to the podium and just keep
Okay.
jumping back up.
The first item, $3 million for Oak Island water main improvements. I know Councilor Powers has alluded to. In the Oak Island area, unlike most of the other sections of the city, there's what's called redundancy. That's water entering into certain sections of the city, drinking water from different points. Oak Island, unfortunately, in the Riverside, only have one water line servicing them. So this would greatly improve the water service to both Oak Island and the Riverside. And another situation is the water line in the back side of Oak Island goes under the railroad tracks. That's only one line running under there. If something were to happen to that water line, you could possibly lose water in that section of Oak Island for days, not hours. So this would add another water line under those under those railroad tracks. and greatly improve water service to that area. And there's also a concern about the fire service in that area on the other side of the track. So this would greatly improve that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any councilors have any questions? And again, all of these will be going to committee. I'm sorry, we're still under proponents. Any other proponents here on this? And I also want to make note that Nick Rystrom would like to be recorded as a proponent.
Yes. My name is George Anzoni. I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere, Mass. I'd like to be listed as a proponent of this because of the fact that I know how important this is to that particular neighborhood, especially where the water supply may not be sufficient if there's a major fire and other reasons. So I am a proponent of this item.
Thank you. Any other proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any councilors? Again, this will be going to the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, I'm an opponent, I think. Here we are again at the end of getting ready to close up the budget, and we get thrown $11 million from CDM Smith, looking for $11 million. And as I've done every year for the past several years, through 3 administrations, I'd like to know, I know it's going to Ways and Means. CNI had no success, even though the council voted unanimously for an audit on CDM Smith, but some reason the state auditor didn't want to do it. So hopefully the city would find somebody else to do an audit. I would like, I'd like before we take it up on Ways and Means, that we get figures from CDM Smith. Now you got to realize, I know we have to do this. I don't know if we have to do all this work. We have to do some of this work because of the fine we got from the federal government. But I just want, I know CDM Smith oversights all the projects. I would just like to know how much this $11 million goes to CDM Smith, because they subcontract, I know they subcontract the work out, and because I've seen this past summer they were, or spring, they were up in North Revere, and I would get calls from my sisters up there that they're doing work on several streets, and so I would go up there and I'd see like 3 CDM Smith guys sitting on a wall, and they're working. The company's working in 3 different locations. I know they're in charge of the oversight, but I don't know how much oversight they're doing. And I don't know, we've been giving them and first of all, it's been the same thing every year. They wait till the last day, the last meeting, and throw it on our desk here, well, $11 million. And it's going to be done tonight or the next meeting. I think it's wrong, and I don't think it's never been done right. And I know it hasn't been done right in other cities, and I just would like a breakdown of where the $11 million, where it's going.
It's a simple request. I do it every year, but I never get it. So that's all I got to the Ways and Means Committee. Hopefully they'll come up with an itemized list of what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And just for everyone's edification, this meeting will be held, I spoke with the Chairman of Ways and Means on the 25th, prior to the meeting of the City Council on the 25th, which will also be taking up the budget, so there'll be a big Ways and Means meeting that night. So we'll take up these during that time. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Briefly, I receive calls almost on a monthly basis about people that have very low water pressure, extremely low. There's a public safety issue here where we have one piece of apparatus out of service, and to compound that with a low water pressure when they turn on a fire hydrant, I think would be could be a serious problem for this city. So I would hope that this is going to Ways and Means, and I hope at that time that the people of Oak Island will be granted the due diligence in having their water lines and drainage lines brought up to par down there. It's very important. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? This will go to Ways and Means.
Calendar item number 5, hearing called is ordered on a loan order in the amount of $550,000 for planning and design of Oak Island water main improvements.
And again, I also want to make note that Nick Rystrom is listed as a proponent for this.
Paul Agenzio, 245 Reservoir Avenue, Superintendent of Public Works. This $550,000 directly relates to the previous one. This is the design work that we already spoke about, so I want to be quoted as a proponent.
Thank you. Any other proponents here this evening?
Yes, my name is George Anzoni. I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Mass. I am a proponent and like to be listed as a proponent of this order because this is some work that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Councilors wishing to speak on this?
Madam President, I think it speaks for itself. Thank you very much.
From the ward councilor. This will also be going to Ways and Means.
Calendar item number 6, hearing called is ordered on a loan order in the amount of $2 million for illicit connection and sump pump removal program, CWSRF construction project number 4439.
Proponents.
Paul Agenzio, 245 Reservoir Avenue, Superintendent of Public Works. As you know, one of the biggest problems in the city, and it has been for years, even long before the consent decree, was illicit connections in people's basements pumping rainwater or flooding water into the sanitary sewer system. The city over the last quite a few years has been identifying these locations, and the city has offered an amnesty program for those people that have this situation. This $2 million is the result of investigations through smoke testing, dye testing, and this $2 million will go to rectifying a lot of these homes that have been discovered, taking their connections, taking them out of the sanitary sewer system and out into the drain system or outside their house where they should be. I'd like to record it as voting in favor of this.
Any other proponents here this evening?
Yes, my name is George Anzoni. I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere, Mass. I'd like to be listed as a proponent. This is work that needs to be done under the consent decree, and it's again something that needs to be done, and so we can be consistent and in accordance with the consent decree. Thank you.
And we'll also make note that City Engineer Nick Rystrom is a proponent of this as well. Any other proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any councilors? Councilor Rizzo.
Just very briefly, I know this amnesty program, it seems we have this every year. And is there going to be a cutoff point with this amnesty program? Like we're talking about, and we can discuss this in Ways and Means. I don't want to take away from the rest of the calendar. I know this is being put in committee, but just noticing the $2 million in amnesty. I mean, that's an awful lot of connections that we'll be bonding for. I mean, how much does one house cost? I mean, first of all, I don't even know how many houses have taken advantage of the amnesty program in years past. Right. But now we're talking about another $2 million for amnesty, and I'm not sure that all that money is necessarily being used on amnesty, and if it is, I'd like some documentation at that meeting so that we can at least see if we're spending $2 million on, with respect to amnesty. That should be able to fix an awful lot of homes that have these illicit and illegal connections. Because it's not that significant a cost to take it out of the sewer system and put it into, to take the, the drainage, the storm drainage out of the sewer system. I mean, I know when I bought my house, my sump pump was tied into my sewer system. I had no idea at the time, and we had to go and take it out, and it wasn't that much money. Right. I mean, $2 million buys an awful lot of homes that we're talking about participating in this amnesty program. So if we could have some documentation at the meeting, I would appreciate that.
Yes, I'm sure CDM Smith will be able to provide that at the Ways and Means Committee meeting, and I know the amnesty program, I believe that's ended, but there are a big backlog of homes still to be rectified, and I believe there's been some leeway with now with owner-occupied homes, giving them some consideration. So I'm sure CDM Smith will provide that at the Ways and Means.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just see Bob, through you, Madam President, and I would just like to see maybe some historical data on what homes have taken advantage of this amnesty program.
Absolutely.
So we know if we're voting, we're talking at the end of it all here, there's a total of $7 or $8 million that this council will be voting on, appropriating, as they do every year. And so I just want to make sure that we're not spending money unnecessarily. I mean, if we only need to bond $5 million, let's bond $5 million. If we need to bond, $6 million, we'll bond $6 million. But why have to bond all this money, even if the can is getting kicked down the road, as George Anzoni had said? We don't have to pay for it for 6 or 7 years. Well, someone's got to pay for it in 6 or 7 years. I just want to be sure that we're not overspending what we might need. Maybe that number isn't the right number. So if you could bring some historical data on that amnesty program so we can all have a chance to look at it, I think that would be helpful in this particular case.
Absolutely, Councilor, and that's something that we submit for the city to DEP every year as well. They've asked us for that report, so we'll be able to bring that information for you.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other councilors on this item? So we'll go to Ways and Means.
Calendar item number 7, hearing called is ordered on a loan order in the amount of $500,000 for the illicit connection detection and sump pump investigations. CWSRF Planning Project number 4386.
Any proponents here this evening?
Paul Agenzio, 245 Reservoir Avenue, Superintendent of Public Works. This $500,000 is for an additional areas of the city to dye and smoke test, and just a continuation of this program, and this would be to identify more properties that aren't in compliance. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is George Anzoni. I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere, Mass. I'd like to be listed as a proponent of this loan order because it's something that is required under the consent decree, and it's what we need to do in order to stay compliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anzoni. We'll also make note that Nick Rystrom, City Engineer, is a proponent for this item. Any other proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any councilors? Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just, this smoke test that they been doing for like 12 years now, I'm just wondering how far along are they in the city? I know they finished my ward, I think. They were up North Revere this past couple of months, few months. But I mean, how many more years is it going to take to do this smoke test? Can anybody answer that?
Bob.
Good evening, Robert Button, CDM Smith, 75 State Street. Under the consent decree, Councilor Patch, there's a certain amount of work in the city that has to occur every year. We've been very aggressively for the last 8 or so years trying to bang off big chunks of the city, and now as the consent decree time is extended and we have an opportunity, we're stretching out the work so that we're not going to be doing as much construction in the city every year. So we're investigating less pipe each year in order to do the construction the following year. So the investigations of the pipelines in the city will continue for probably another 7 or 8 years under the consent decree in order to get the entire city done. We've lined about half of the city right now, so we're working on the other half as judiciously as we can within the funding constraints of what the city has available.
So you're saying it's been extended another 7 or 8 years?
We are working with the federal government and the city to formalize the extension, but the approval letters that we've received back from the state and the EPA have allowed us to extend the work out in 5-year increments, and that'll give us more time, than we had initially to finish the projects.
So that means more years that you can oversight this job and cost the city a lot more money. I don't know. To me, it's getting to be like the Revere Big Dig. I just don't see an end in sight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo.
Just a point of information for you folks in the audience right now. Just to let you know, it's looking pretty assy outside, and just want to let you be informed of it. And there's also some dangerous weather warnings, so if you check your phones, make your best judgments. Thank you.
Thank you for the point, Councilor. Any other councilors? This will go to Ways and Means.
Calendar item number 8, hearing called is ordered on a loan order in the amount of $4,700,000 for Phase 9 construction, infiltration, inflow, illicit discharge, detection and elimination, pump station and drainage. CWSRF construction project number 4440.
Any proponents here this evening? Some familiar faces?
Yes. Paul Agenzio, 245 Reservoir Avenue, Superintendent of Public Works. As you know, the consent decree for the past few years has been set up. There's a certain plan to it. You do the design phase of it, and then it enters into a construction phase. So this $4.7 million is a direct result of the design phase from last year, and this work is now scheduled for construction starting, I believe, in the spring.
Thank you. Any other proponents here this evening? And while Mr. Anzoni's walking up, we'll also say that Nick Rystrom wants to be noted as a proponent.
Yes. Yes, my name is George Anzoni. I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere, Mass. I'd like to be listed as a proponent for this bond issue. It's a part of the consent decree from the DOJ and EPA, and we need to remain compliant with the consent decree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anzoni. Any other proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Councilors? Any councilors? Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Madam President. Paul, I got a question for you. Construction, this is $4.7 million. $7 million for,
I think,
for construction. Is any of this construction for streets in my ward that don't have any drainage at all, that have been promised drains? Are they going to wait another 8 years?
I know we have spoken about that. I've met extensively with CDM Smith, and that was a big part of the discussion, those drain lines up off of Malden Street.
Yes.
And I don't believe it's in this construction phase of it. I think that's a future phase.
Well, I hope I'm still alive when they get to the...
Well, hopefully we make it, but
yeah.
is that in the next... Bob Buttons would probably be able to tell you better what phase that's going to happen, but we were discussing that.
And I think that would all be valuable information to
Thank
have
you.
during the subcommittee meeting. That way CDM can make a presentation, and we'll have all the right people there to get our counselors all of the information that they need. Any other counselors wishing to speak? Ways and Means.
Calendar item number 9, hearing called is ordered on a loan order in the amount of $1 million for Phase 10 Field Investigations, CWSRF Planning Project number 4387.
Any proponents here this evening?
Paula Genzio, 245 Reservoir Avenue, Superintendent of Public Works. Again, like I had just explained, there's a design phase that is prior to the construction phase. This design phase, Phase 10, is entering into a design phase, and that will be construction for the following summer, keeping with the compliance with the consent decree. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents here this evening?
Do you want to mention Nick is in favor of this before I speak? Okay. My name is George Anzoni. I'm the Director of Finance, City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere, Mass. I'd like to be listed as a proponent of this measure because of the fact it's part of the consent decree under the DOJ, EPA, and we are required to remain in compliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anzoni. We'll also note City Engineer Nick Rystrom is a proponent. Are there any other proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any counselors wishing to speak on this item? Ways and Means.
Zoning Subcommittee report.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Madam President. 18157, 18045 are placed on file. Madam Clerk, could you read the amendments that were put forward? (18-140/CZ1805).
So this is an ordinance amending the zoning ordinances of the City of Revere relative to duplex dwellings. The one amendment that was offered during the zoning subcommittee was to Section 5 of the advertised ordinance. Footnote Z shall now read, all dwellings within the RA and RB districts, which are located within the FEMA 100-year floodplain, will be allowed 3 stories and 35 feet, only if the first story is a garage.
So ordered on a second reading as amended? Ordered on a third and final reading as amended? Roll call for engrossment and ordainment.
Shall the City Council approve an ordinance amending the zoning ordinances of the City of Revere relative to duplex dwellings? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito. Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo. Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes. The ordinance is engrossed and ordained as amended.
And I believe the only item thereafter was the St. Jean's, and we accepted the site plan review. Madam Clerk.
Roll call.
Madam President, just to know I recuse myself from this vote.
Make note that Councilor Novoselsky is recused from this motion.
Shall the City Council grant the relief being requested by the applicant, subject to the findings and conditions of site plan review? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky is recused. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo. Yes. Councilor Rotundo. Yes. Councilor Zambuto.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the special permit has been granted, subject to the findings and conditions of site plan review. Calendar item number 14, communication from James DiPaolo, 849 Revere Beach Parkway, requesting time to discuss a rat problem near his home.
Is Mr. DiPaolo here this evening?
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Madam President and council members. My name is Jim DiPaolo. I live at 849 Revere Beach Parkway. I'm a homeowner, been a resident in Revere most of my life. For the past 2 years, I've had a serious rat problem that just doesn't go away. I was happy to hear the mayor talk about in his fiscal year budget, he's going to allow, I think he said, $150,000 to try to resolve the problem. I don't know if that's enough money, but I have a story to tell. I hope I have a little time to say. For the past 2 years, I've been dealing with the Board of Health of a serious rat problem on my property. The city came down one time, which they will do, to bait your property, and after you, it's on you. So what I do is I buy rat poison and I rebait the traps on my property. However, the rats don't come from my property. My neighbor next door, tenants live there. The homeowner doesn't live there. The address is 851, 853 Revere Beach Parkway. The owner of the property is a Richard Travelloni. He doesn't live in the city. He lives in Wakefield, I believe. And so I started out by calling the Board of Health with my rat problem. And for maybe a month went by, and I saw no improvement. So I started calling the Board of Health and asking them, how come nothing's been done? And I was told repeatedly that an inspector came down and he determined there was no violation of the city's trash ordinance, which means barrels are supposed to be covered with your trash and garbage, or you use mint bags. That's my understanding of the current trash ordinance. So then I started taking pictures myself, because I see it every week, and they're not compliant. Like I say, there's tenants in the building. The owner of the property does not live there. There's different people coming and going all the time. And every week, there's solid food like chicken wings, hamburger, just openly put in the barrels. So the rats dig holes under my fence. I have a 6-foot fence that separates my property from my neighbors. They dig holes under my fence to get to the garbage. So the source of the food is not on my property, yet I have no control over other properties. So I started taking pictures myself, and with certified letters, certificate of mailing letters, sending to Nick Cadnazzo, who at the time when I started was a full-time director of the Board of Health and Inspection. Now I understand he's only there 2 days a week, which means if you write him a letter or try to get in touch with him, he's not there 3 days out of the week. So I don't know how that works in trying to solve a problem. So I've sent, over the past 2 years, 9 letters, certified letters with pictures. If the councils would like to see, I have some pictures. I don't know if you want to look, of pictures I've taken with rats. I've caught a couple in traps on my property with the holes, and also of my neighbor's garbage in open barrels, overflowing the barrels, garbage bags on the ground on the other side of my fence, bags being torn open by rodents and night creatures, which is food up everywhere. And I don't want to live like this. I pay my taxes, I don't bother nobody. I just like to live with no rats. They make you cringe. These are big rats I'm talking, these aren't mice. Now, I know there's a lot of construction going on in the city. They're blowing out all the sewers. Every day you see them blowing out sewers. They're probably driving rats out of the sewers. But the city has to counter this with some kind of a program. Now, I saw a program on TV, on Chronicle, a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about a serious rat problem in the city of Quincy. And the director of the Board of Health in Quincy explained that Quincy was undertaking a very aggressive program. And she mentioned that, it was very interesting to me because I got the problem. She mentioned to me that a female rat will produce 12 babies every 3 months. So their program is they hired a contractor and they got some kind of a chemical that they feed to the rats, and a female rat gets sterile, so she can't produce babies. So it sounds to me, and plus they're going to educate their people of how to storage garbage and trash. We got a lot of new people coming to the city of Revere, a lot of tenants that don't own the property. Where I live on the Parkway, there's 20 two-family houses back to back on the Parkway and on Taft Street. A lot of them are tenants, and they need to be educated on how to storage their garbage, and it's not being done. So I look forward and think, every week when garbage day comes, my neighbor puts the garbage in open barrels, no covers. I've sent a letter to Mayor Arrigo 2 weeks ago. I never got a response. I mentioned to him about the program I saw in Quincy, and I said, why don't you call the mayor of Quincy? I gave him the mayor's number. I gave him the number of the Board of Health Director of the city of Quincy, and maybe they can give you some information how to go about to solve this problem in Revere. I never got no feedback on my letter. The mayor did say tonight, like I heard him when he was talking about the budget for 2019, he did mention $150,000. I don't know the details. I don't know if that's enough money. Anyway, the bottom line is, I had to quote the state's public record law. The neighbor next door that I'm talking about at 851 and 853, he's been fined $640 over the past 2 years for trash code violations. The city's only collected $200, so he still owes $410 that he hasn't paid. I questioned the Board of Health, are you going to go after this money? Are you going to collect this? Because there's no improvement. It doesn't change. I never got no response. So I don't know what more I can do. If the councils would like to see a copy of this, I'd be glad to leave this several copies of the readouts and the printouts of all the fines for this property, what's been collected, what hasn't been, and I'd like the council to question who's ever in charge of the building inspector as to why these haven't been collected. I spoke to Cheryl McCormick. She's the city's assistant solicitor. She's the one that got me this because I had to quote the public record law to get it. And I asked her, what is the city going to do to collect the fines? Because if the fines aren't collected, the owner's not going to make any improvements. All he's really got to do is go out and buy some new barrels for his tenants with covers and instruct them to use them. Hasn't done it.
So, sir, I will say, we did bring this up during one of our last city council meetings. It is in committee, and one of the reasons why we put them into committee is so that we can work, because it's not a regional problem, it's a problem throughout the entire city.
Yes.
So, and one thing that we talked about last week during our meeting was, there's not a way to approach it neighborhood by neighborhood because they're gonna move. They're everywhere. So the city's currently looking at a really aggressive approach that we can deal with this as an entire city, it's not a Ward 1 problem, it's not a Ward 2 problem, it's not a Ward 6 problem, it's citywide. So I would recommend that when we have that DPW meeting, you can be in touch with the clerk and definitely join in on that, and we are working to figure out what the best option is. Several things came up, whether it be the chemicals that we discussed, dry ice, owls. There are so many different strategies that cities like the City of New York are using. I know I've been in contact with Representative Rosalie Vincent. She's very up to speed on it and sent me some information about what the City of New York is doing as well, which I think is they're definitely very aggressive, I would say more so than Quincy or any other neighboring communities, because they have it 1,000 times worse than us. So I would recommend you can make copies of any documentation that you have and submit it to the clerk. She'll distribute it in our mailboxes, and we can look at it and we can take it up during that DPW meeting.
Can I make just one other thing I'd like to say in regards to what you just said? To me, I'm not an expert on how to get rid of rats or anything like that. All I know is If the city is issuing fines, which in this case were over $600 in the past 2 years, and there's $400 and some odd dollars uncollected, why can't the city just ramp it up and go after this guy? In the Journal this week, in the Revere Advocate, they listed property owners who haven't paid their property taxes, some $400 or $500, some more. The city makes a statement in the paper that they're giving them 2 weeks to pay, or they're going to put a lien on their property at the Registry of Deeds. Why doesn't the city do this to people who aren't paying their fines?
Counselor?
Sir, if they are appealing it, they won't be charged. If they're appealing any decision made against them, that could possibly be a reason that they're not being charged.
Well, he has paid like $200 over the past 2 years. He has paid some of it.
Councilor McKenna?
Thank you, Madam President. He's in my ward, and I've dealt with this a number of times. I've gone down and taken pictures of, and he's right. The barrels are not covered, and there is garbage all everywhere. But it's always gone to Nick, and Nick has always fined the landlord. I have to say that Mayor Arrigo did say that he was going to put $150,000 into a pet management for rats, and he did say that he was going to order uniform trash barrels with covers. That's going to be a program too, so that might help you. There is, like Councilor Rotundo said, there's a fine issued. If they don't pay it, it's increased. And it goes until, I mean, it has to be, I think, thousands of dollars. When you saw that tax, the people that owned property taxes, some owed $28,000. After something like that, a lien does go on the land, but a lien won't go on the land if there's only $400 that's owed. But it does increase. The fines do increase. So.
But Joanne, on this printout that I got, that goes for the past year and a half. It goes from October 2016 to say April of 2018, right? And if you read down the fines that were issued as you go along, the fine might be $10, then it's $25, then it's $35, then it's $60.
So, sir, with all due respect, this is a very specific and very personal issue. I don't know if this is necessarily the appropriate forum to take it up piece by piece. I think it's great that we made a general presentation and can get it in the right direction. Taking it apart piece by piece, I don't necessarily think this is the right venue. But I definitely think we can put it into committee, and we can put it into the DPW committee and take it up with the other ordinance or motions that are in there for the rat problem that we're dealing with. Councilor Keefe has a quick comment, and then I will put this in committee.
Thank you, Madam President. And sir, your information is really, it's upsetting to see that this is happening, but I think that we've all been dealing with this, sometimes a lot of neighborly issues, and you're doing the right thing, and it stinks to have a neighbor like that that's inconsiderate, and it's terrible. As far as the fines, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, yes, if they're not paying them in a timely fashion or they're trying to appeal them, sometimes they'll have add-on fines or an additional. Eventually, at some point, they have to pay. So whether it's when they go to sell their house, there'll be a holdup at the Register of Deeds, or there'll be a holdup in the transaction until that fine is paid, or it'll be much like taxes, it'll be recouped in the sale. So eventually the city's going to collect their money, just like anything. You're never going to escape your taxes, and the same thing with this. I actually purchased my home 15 years ago, and there was a health lien on the home. I had to go fight it because it was from the prior owner, and it wasn't anything bad. They had a yard sale, and they posted a sign up. So in transition of moving the house, it just didn't, it was a 2-week gap. It didn't get caught. It came to me, and I had to go talk to Nick Catanazzo and say, why is this $300 bill coming to my tax bill? And it was because the prior owners was trying to sell their old goods, and they put a sign up. They were fined. It was crazy, $300, but it had gone and accumulated. But again, they don't lose the record of that very easily. So I'm sure the city will recoup its funds, and I'm really sorry that you have to deal with that with your neighbors.
It's very unnerving.
It's inconsiderate, and if we could all just be better neighbors out there, I think that we'll be in better shape.
Thank you. I'll submit these into the clerk. The letter I sent to the mayor and also the printouts for the last 2.5 years of the fines issued,
Perfect.
if anyone would like to look at it. Thank you very much for hearing me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else wishing to speak? So we'll go to DPW Subcommittee.
Calendar item number 16, communication from the city auditor relative to a solid waste recycling enterprise fund.
And before we begin these communications, I will note I spoke with the chairman earlier today, and these will all be going to the Ways and Means Subcommittee for further discussion, as they're substantial amounts of money. So, any counselors have any questions on these? Ways and Means.
Communication from the mayor relative, calendar item number 17, communication from the mayor relative to the ETP scholarship.
If there are no questions, this will also go to Ways and Means.
Calendar item number 18, communication from the city auditor relative to a workers' compensation insurance fund for self-insured.
Ways and Means.
On to motions. Calendar item number 20, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky that the mayor requests the DPW to cease issuing any new street opening permits to National Grid unless in an emergency until all old requests are completed.
Counselor.
Thank you, Madam President. I know we had a discussion with National Grid earlier, and I did talk to Dan Cameron about this particular motion this afternoon. And I told him I feel very strongly about it, that, you know, National Grid is getting in over their heads as far as we're concerned. They're just overwhelming us. And I think that it's time that we run the show rather than they run the show. So I'm putting this in just for underground openings. It doesn't include working on double poles to eliminate them. It doesn't count them stopping from doing light work. It's just the digging of our roads from the gas portion of National Grid. So I hope people look at this, agree with me, and, you know, tell National Grid that we're their customers and they can't abuse us. And that's the way I feel about it. So I hope everybody will vote on this and that the mayor signs it and sends a message to National Grid. Thank you.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. I understand the councilor's frustration, and I wish there was a real way to make this work. The problem with doing something like this is we end up hurting a homeowner or someone that needs power to their new house or whatever, and that's what the result of not issuing a permit is. So I think there's probably other ways to do this rather than, you know, a blanket. So I can't support this. Thanks.
Any other counselors? Councilor McKenna?
Thank you, Madam President. It's very frustrating when you're a ward councilor and, you know, you get the calls and, you know, they dig up a street and then they just patch it and the street starts to sink and there's all kinds of potholes. You call for 5 months to get a light fixed and no light is fixed. It's still dark. So it's just, I don't know, it's very frustrating, I think, as ward councilors, and I think it's more, you know, it affects us more. That's how I feel, so thank you.
Any other counselors? If I may speak very briefly on this, I think it's a great motion. I know off the top of my head in the past year, I can think of Councilor Guanasso's ward was affected by it when Kinship and Fiore's was affected. Councilor McKenna's ward was affected when the work by Beachfront Roast Beef happened, and there were restaurants that were open for business that were suffering due to their neglect. It's a citywide issue, and you know, it's more than just trenches that aren't being compacted and problems that we're having with them, but it's affecting our businesses and our homeowners. So I think it makes a statement. Would I want to see someone that's a resident building a new home affected? Absolutely not. But at what point do we say enough is enough? So I think it's a great motion. On the motion, Madam Clerk?
Roll call on Council Order 18-216. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido? Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo? Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
No.
No. And Council President Janino?
Yes. Madam
Yes,
Clerk?
the motion has been approved.
Suspension of rules. All in favor? All opposed? On reconsideration with hopes that it does not prevail. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Thank you.
Back to the regular order of business.
Calendar item number 21, motion presented by Councilor Novoselsky that the mayor request National Grid to install a new 100-watt streetlight on Elliott Road near number 75 Elliott Road on pole number 1148.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, just quickly to Councilor Zambudo, I'm not asking for a favor, I'm sending him an order. So, there's an area on Elliott Road that's very dark between Curtis and Garfield Ave, and people walking up the street are afraid of people jumping out from behind buildings. So, we're asking for a new street light on that empty pole. Thank you.
Any other councilors? On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 22, motion presented by Councilor McKenna that the mayor request the city engineer to install catch basins in appropriate locations at the lower end of Pearl Ave. Storm and seawater have no place to drain during heavy rains and storm surges. Further, that the DPW be requested to clean the existing catch basins on Pearl Ave as they are filled with sand and debris.
Council Vice President.
Thank you, Madam President. So, as we know, the last couple of months, Pearl Ave has been inundated with stormwater, but now it's raining, and they're inundated with rainwater. I'm sure tonight they're flooded. 3 weeks ago, they had 3.5 feet of water. We went down there, Mike Hessam and Nick Bryson, and we found out that there are no catch basins on the lower half of Pearl Ave. So I'm asking for the city to put 2 to 4 catch basins on the lower half of Pearl Ave to alleviate the water that runs from the ocean and runs downhill. The only place they have catch basins is in the middle of Pearl Ave. So this is very necessary so they won't get flooded. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? On Councilor McKenna's motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 23, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the City Council and the City of Revere conduct a 4-month construction moratorium on properties 6 units or larger to study the effects of traffic, EMS run times, fires related to wood frame construction and large-scale developments, and impacts to local water and sewer infrastructure. Likewise, study the effects of these developments or future developments will have on our school system, the proliferation of rodents, and quality of life in Revere. Additionally, identify every possible developable piece of land, lot, or property for potential development in Revere in order to gain community input and education on the best and highest use of properties in Revere. Furthermore, to develop a structured plan of uses of individual property within a certain zoned area. And lastly, to conduct community hearings and community surveys regarding the development of various properties in the city, assisting the direction of development and zoning, while ensuring the highest and best use of a property, but most importantly, a higher quality of life.
Councilor.
Yeah, that was a mouthful. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Frankly, the things that I've been hearing from everybody is overdevelopment, rats. I'm very thankful that the mayor finally, after 2 years, is going to put $150,000 towards a rat problem that we've had for about 2 years and growing, and I appreciate that. However, we've got properties in this city that need to be looked at, in particular Wonderland Dog Track. What are they going to put there? More importantly, what do we want there? How can we derive better zoning in order to push us a particular type of environment at Wonderland Dog Track. More importantly, we have probably well over 200 developable lots in the city of Revere. We should figure out where they are and find out what we can do to either maximize them or, for that matter, minimize them and zone them out. We have general business on Broadway and on Central Avenue as well as on Revere Street. The city is a hodgepodge of zoning. We need to tighten up our zoning. More importantly, we need to tighten up the way that we're doing things in the city. If not, we're going to find ourselves waiting at one part of Broadway to get to the other, and possibly being able to do it quicker by foot than by car. Quite frankly, the time it takes to get from Boston to Revere, or Revere to Boston right now, it takes me more time to leave Revere than it does the second I get on the highway to get into Boston. Literally, it takes me a half hour to get out of the city. That's crazy. So I understand the traffic issue is regional, and I do understand that part of those issues are not related directly to development per se because of the way the statistics work. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can put in a 5-pound boot. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. Historically, I'm not a fan of moratoriums, and I would consider them if there's very specific goals set around the moratorium. I'm all for discussing this in committee, and you know, maybe I can be satisfied with that it's not just a moratorium for the sake of saying we have a moratorium. If it's goal-orientated, maybe, but I'd like to discuss it in committee. Thank you.
I agree. Any other counselors? And this will be going to committee.
Well, that was my question. I have a lot of questions. I think it's, I mean, Councilor Rotundo, he hits a lot of important topics, and I totally agree with almost all of them. But I just, so many questions, I guess I would save them for committee.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, and I understand this is going to committee, but again, this is something that the City Council, not every City Council is sitting here right now, but this has been before the City Council in the past. In fact, back in late 2015, we had requested as an administration a 2-year moratorium to study all zoning across the city, and we had began a process called Plan Revere in conjunction with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and unfortunately that was never approved. Everything went sine die. The new administration came in, and now we find ourselves here. And you know, just it's obvious that we need to get a handle on our zoning. We're still talking about zoning amendments almost every meeting, but it's like a constant. There's no master plan. There's no. You know, the city is not the same city it was 30 or 40 years ago. And now you factor that in. There was just on public radio today, and people have access to it on WBUR, they talked about a study that was done about climate change and how that's impacting development across the state of Massachusetts. And it says, Revere was actually highlighted in it. And it's, you know, in the study, it said over the next 30 years, the study finds that 1,100 homes in Revere could be facing flooding every other week. Every other week. It also went on to say, and I'm just hitting the high points. It said Revere is the municipality with the greatest number of homes at risk. 573 homes as of today. That's not what could be built over these next several years. So we really need to get a grip on what we're doing with respect to development. There's this race to bring as many people into the city for some reason. I don't know why, but I think we need to stop and take a breath. People move into this community for a reason. And, you know, I think we need to show some leadership here and you know, start to tell the developers what Revere wants, not what the developers want. So I support it, obviously. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor?
Thank you. I would just like those that would like it to go in committee, give me a reason why. Because the moratorium is that process. That is the process. So I'd like to know why. Why does it need to go in committee? Why can't we have the moratorium and then effectively study this product? I think it's pretty concise, tells you exactly what's going to be done, lays out the plan, doesn't affect anything over at Suffolk Downs. That's already put forward, so that's out of the question. So who are we affecting here? The people. That's right, we're affecting the people. So you can vote it in committee and it'll stay there, and hopefully I can get it out. Or we can have a moratorium and actually do something that means something. Thank you.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. I can support a 4-month moratorium. Obviously, the other large parcel of property that is out there is Wonderland, and we all know that that's not going to be developed. They're still working on the tearing the building down there, so I can support it. But I think the key here is we're all city councilors. A moratorium or no moratorium, we all have a vote on this city council, and as I did several weeks ago on the Bianchi's project, I voted no. And any project that comes up that we're not happy with, we all have that right to vote no and to kill it. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Zambudo.
I hate to repeat myself. I mean, I thought I was pretty clear on my reasons for wanting to go to committee. Now, my colleague can disagree with that, but I thought it was a reasoned approach and that we need to discuss this in committee. So that's why I think it needs to go in committee. And ramming a moratorium of any kind for any reason, if you don't want to talk about it in committee, I'm suspect. So that's my point, and that's why I want it to go to, I'd like it to go to the zoning committee, but you're the president, and whatever you decide. Thank you.
Thank you. I also see it fit to go to the zoning committee. Just by a show of hands, I'll ask the council who wishes it to go to committee. This will go to zoning.
Calendar item number 24, motion presented by Councilor Janino that that the City Council award certificates of merit to Deputy Gianpietro, Lieutenant Brown, firefighters Petrilli and Ruza of the Revere Fire Department for their extraordinary life-saving actions taken to rescue a resident at Lee's Trailer Park during a fire on May 29th, 2018.
If I may. Thank you. It's so important that as a city we take time to recognize people and what they do for our community. And I'm sure if you were to ask any one of the members of this fire department and thank them, they would say, I was just doing my job. And that's the truth of the matter, is that we're so lucky to have a police department and a fire department that would say, I'm just doing my job. But it's our job as a community to recognize them when they go above and beyond and thank them for their service. So that is why I put this forward, and I'll save any individual comments for the night. Any councilors?
Madam President, I think it's an excellent motion. As a matter of fact, most people in the city at one time or another have had to call on the services of the police, the fire department. I have had instances where I've had to call the fire department. And I can say we have one of the best fire departments in the Commonwealth. They do everything in their effort to respond to emergencies. And I think any firefighters that are offered on a certificate of appreciation, they should be awarded that certificate. They certainly earn it every day. Thank you.
Any other councilors? All in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 25, motion presented by Councilor McKenna that the mayor request the Department of Planning and Community Development or the DPW to facilitate the repair of the concrete and wooden public stairs in Beachmont. The stairs are used every day by Beachmont residents and commuters going to and from the MBTA station, though the condition of the stairs is hazardous and deplorable. This is the third request by motion for these repairs.
Council Vice President McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. So we have, in Beachmont, we have 4 public stairs. We have 2 concrete, 2 wooden. They've been neglected forever. This is my 3rd motion to try to fix them. I know conversation has been back and forth, but people use these public stairs to go over to the other side of Beachmont. They use them for the MBTA, and now they can't even use them because they're broken. The ones on Endicott Ave I just went and looked at, they're tilted. So if you're walking down tilted. God forbid if they fall over. The concrete ones, they're missing stairs, they're missing pieces of stairs. Before anybody gets hurt, we really need to address the problem because they are a necessary part of commuting in Beachmont every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. This is a shame. I don't know how many times Councilor McKenna has asked for the mayor to do this. Frankly, I feel it's politics, retribution to some degree at least. This needs to be fixed. And frankly, I don't know why it hasn't been fixed. It's been over 2 years, I believe, Councilor McKenna has asked off and on about this particular property. So if the mayor wants to talk about politics, this is clearly a good case of it. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Councilor?
Thank you, Madam President. I think just in particular, when we're looking at all our public stairways within the city, I think we need to, as a city, we need to pay more attention to them because these are avenues where the students travel to and from school, and people who don't have a vehicle to go back and forth, they basically walk everywhere throughout the community, and it's very important that we fix these and pay special attention to these in the future going forward.
Any other councilors? On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? Oh, yeah, just people gotta tell me if they want to speak. Come up. Don't be shy. Hello. Looks like we have members of the Beachmont Improvement Committee here.
Yes, we do. And I'm Kathleen Heiser, 51 Endicott Avenue, Revere. And thank you, Councilor McKenna, for making this motion. We really appreciate it. And what you said is very true, Stephen, that we are a walking community. And so that I'm here representing the Beachmont Improvement Committee. I'm the president. And I had probably 20 people that would have been here with me, but we're just 5 tonight, and I wrote down the concerns, and I'll just briefly say what they are. So these aren't exactly my words, these are from our constituents. So the BIC believes that such repairs should be part of the Revere effort to continue improving the reputation and attract new businesses and their employees, high-paying renters, to the area. Similar to the crumbling beach wall and roadway on the Parkway, it's kind of a variation of build it and they will come. Somebody else. Construction is happening in Beachmont, and the people that the developers are trying to attract want good transportation and reliable walking paths to get to that transportation. Someone else said, just think how safe access on our public ways would promote our Beachmont neighborhood in a positive way. Once the walkways are safe, it would be wonderful to landscape and really make the walkways a showplace for all to enjoy. Someone else said the motion is a good first step. However, what we asked for and want to push for is a 2-part solution. 1, addressing safety issues to allow continued use of the stairs, and 2, addressing the need to plan for and budget for ultimate replacement/upgrades to the public stairs in that area. If possible, we'd like to see an amendment to the motion to include Part 2, the need to plan for and budget for ultimate replacement upgrades to the public stairs. We realize Part 2 is a long-term effort, but we want to make sure that is included in the overall scope of what we would like to see accomplished. Otherwise, our fear is that only the repairs will be made and nothing else. A couple said they walk all the stairs this weekend and report that the condition of the wooden stairs from Endicott to Bellingham are rotted. They were patched before but are now dangerous. and the stairs from Pearl Ave to Crescent actually shake, which indicates the supports are rotted. Another person reports that their family uses the stairs on Winthrop Ave and Unity Ave. They don't know if there's any stats on usage, but they definitely use them and their kids use them. And the reason more people don't use them is because of their condition and lack of lighting. People are afraid to use them. The steps just beyond where Pacella's funeral home was at 882 Winthrop Ave are crumbling. Also, if you take a look at the Pearl Ave, Winthrop Ave, and Bellingham Ave stairs, they form a walkway over the neighborhood from the marsh to the ocean if you can continue all the way down Gould's Hill. This is how Beachmont walkers navigate the neighborhood. Someone else said, in the name of safety, immediate repairs need to be made to the public stairs. A plan for a budget for ongoing repairs, i.e. seasonal inspection should be made and necessary repairs made. 3, long-term subsequent evaluations proposals submitted for up-to-date replacement of stairs for all locations. Number 4, they said under no circumstances should these public access stairs be closed down. This would mean that the Beachmont residents would have to walk the whole Beachmont Hill area in order to have access to other streets. This is not acceptable. The stairs are in deplorable shape and have been for some time. Their current condition adversely affects the quality of life and pride in the neighborhood and tends to make them become dumping grounds and hangouts. If the stairs are unsafe, they need to be made safe and not just shut down so we can't use them. If there's a plan that needs to be developed to replace them, let's get one going now. Replacement of the public stairs in Beachmont has been on the BIC list of priority problems for some time now. We need and should have proper stairs with lighting and landscaping that will make the public stairs in our neighborhood safer and more useful. We're well aware of the level of repair replacement that is needed. We walk these stairs all the time and work to keep the areas around the stairs clean. We see it every day. We've been told that the issue has been assessed and the findings of fixing the stairs is more complicated than thought. The level of work required should be no surprise to anybody. When city assets such as the public stairs are not properly maintained, they will deteriorate, as these have, to the point where a major effort and cost is required to correct the problem. We're also well aware that we're not the only ones with the problem, as in Ira's ward. We do not expect the problem to be resolved overnight, but we do expect that measures be taken sooner than later to ensure that the stairs remain safe and open to the public and that planning and budgeting for proper replacement gets underway. We want to know that there's a plan. We want to be involved in the plan, and we want to be kept informed of these steps being taken, of the progress towards the resolution. So the last one is a person said, I believe the public stairs serve an important function in allowing pedestrians to walk from one section of Beachmont to another to get to school and the MBTA. With increasing traffic congestion, the city should be making walking easy, pleasant, and safe. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you can support us and try and support Councilor McKenna in this motion because it's really important to us. We need to get these stairs fixed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make an amendment with that. As Kathleen suggested that we, what was the second? I'm sorry.
To include it to be a 2-tier project, so the first will be the development and the second will be make sure there's a maintenance?
Yes. Is that? So I'd like to put that in my motion too. Thank you very much.
Got it, Council Vice President. On the motion as amended, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 26, motion presented by Councilor Rizzo, that the mayor contact the Department of Conservation and Recreation to sanitize and clean Revere Beach. Also, that the sand along the sidewalk be removed in the interest of public safety.
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Madam President. When I sent this motion over to the clerk's office, I did so last Thursday night, and I had been down the beach and had had seen the sand that was on the sidewalk, pushed up against the wall, and so on and so forth. I thought that it was a mess, and happened to attend an event at the Jack Satter House that same night, and many of the residents had expressed how disappointed they were in the way the beach had looked. I had also bumped into a couple of people who are already swimming in the water and were talking about all the seaweed and everything else that had accumulated up onto the beach. And in years past, let me say this, I think the DCR has done a tremendous job in keeping that beach up. But as of that point, I don't believe that it was the way that we would have wanted it. Now, I was down there on Sunday, and it seems as though that the sidewalk was much cleaner. And I know that Joanne McKenna, Councilor McKenna, had conducted a cleanup over in Short Beach that was very effective as well. So it seems like work has been done. Now, as far as the sand itself, notwithstanding the piping plovers that have taken up even more of the beach this year, the sand itself, I am not 100% sure. I could not tell on Sunday whether or not that work had been done. And they were really religious for years, taking those sanitizers out and making sure that the sand was spread evenly and that the seaweed was picked up. So hopefully, just a little nudge to our state delegation and to the DCR that, you know, we have these expectations. Of course, we have sandcastles coming up in the not too distant future. We want to make sure that our beach looks really, really good. We bring over 1 million people over the course of 3 or 4 days to the city, and we want to be proud, as we always have been, of our ocean front. So, you know, this is, this motion was not submitted as a bashing session against the DCR. It was just to make sure that the work was being done, to showcase our beach and to give people that live in our city the best beach that we can. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. I think that's an excellent motion. I know that DCR has, over the years, made significant improvements with regard to maintaining the beach. And I believe that was all due and mostly to our state delegation working to effect that. One of the things I noticed down there, and we're talking about rodents here every night. That seems to be the topic, subject of topic, you know. If you drive along, like I had occasion to do the past couple of Saturday nights, and you look at the trash barrels that are out there from some of the businesses, if a barrel is 5 feet high, the trash beyond that is 2 or 3 feet high over the top. And I think that our Inspectional Services Department has to have some type of a talk with the owners of the properties down there. And I'm not here to harm businesses, but I think businesses, like all the residents, have a responsibility to make sure that the trash is either covered or picked up before closing and not left in the condition it's being left in. And if you want to talk about rodents, that's something that would attract rodents more than anything else in the city. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Any other councilors wishing to speak? Anyone else wishing to speak? If anyone wishes to speak, you can just line up behind the podium, just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, President and Council. My name is Sandy Levin, and I live at the Jack Satter House, 420 Revere Beach Boulevard. I'm very unhappy, and I'm speaking for the people of the Jack Satter House. A lot of these people are very disabled, and there's no way they can get over to the beach because it's just filthy, dirty. There's a lot of stones, rocks, grass is growing now right across from us. And we did have a plastic covering going down that you could walk down with the wheelchair. That is gone. And the whole beach is just filthy dirty. We cannot go over. I mean, there were a few people over there today. They turned around and they said, we're not staying. It was so bad. And the other thing that concerns us is that during the winter, they were plowing, and the mayor knew about this. They took the sand from the street and pushed it over onto the sand, which to me and the other people is contamination. So all I know is I'm asking for a little bit of help because I've called the State House. I've had no luck with the DCR. And I spoke with Randy from the mayor's office, I believe, because they asked me to call him. And he said, oh, they were over there cleaning the beach. No, they weren't over cleaning the beach because there were no trucks over there. They did clean some of the sand from the sidewalk, but not completely. There's still a lot. But I want to thank you, Danny, and thank John, too, for speaking about it. But it's too bad because this is the middle of June already. And we just can't go over, people can't enjoy themselves. So I'm asking just for a little bit of help because we just don't know what to do anymore. DCR is not doing a thing to help.
Well, thank
So,
you, and I hope that this
thank you
motion's
very-
a good step in the right direction to get it resolved.
And thank you very much, Madam President and Council.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilor McKenna?
So, Madam President, hi. I did contact Commissioner Beaton about them throwing the snow over back onto the beach. So I did contact him. I didn't know about the sand, but I can contact him and let him know about that too.
Okay. Why is the grass growing on there?
The grass is beach grass, so what they want to try to do is they want to try to create the beach grass so that there's no erosion, so that sand doesn't come over the wall. So I think they're growing that beach grass, so I think it's because of erosion. If you go to any other beach, you'll see that the same thing. But they should have a pathway. If you have an opening for the seniors, they should have a clear pathway for you guys to get on the beach. Definitely.
Thank you, Councilor.
Yes, we did, and John Powers is the one that put it down. Thank you, John, but what happened to it?
Well, we'll do our best to try to figure that out, and hopefully through Councilor McKenna's motion, get some answers for you.
Madam President, to the Speaker, I'll check into that tomorrow. It may very well be covered by sand, or DCR may have taken it away, but we can certainly get another one for you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you very much, Councilor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam President.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Sure. You can just approach and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mary Turner, 123 Crest Ave. Just briefly, Councilor Rizzo, could your motion be amended to include Short Beach?
Absolutely, it's under DCR control, absolutely.
That's a nightmare down there for being cleaned up. It never gets cleaned up. I mean, I know Joanne had her effort there, but it's just not a long-term.
Well, and the other thing, through you, Madam President, the other thing that happened is, of course, we've had some significant storms, and it's really done a number on the actual beaches itself. So, we definitely need, some extra help, whether or not the DCR has the resources, whether they can sub some of it out. It absolutely needs to be taken care of.
The BIC and the RBC, we have attended meetings at DCR, and they say they don't have the help. They can't get people to help. But people that use those beaches, I mean, Short Beach is really utilized by Beachmont residents. It always has been. But there are a lot of times when that beach is not usable whatsoever. So if you could include that in there, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Councilor McKenna?
Madam President, Mary, to a couple of answers that you've asked. First of all, I think the beach has been cleaned twice, but now they're saying that they can't get the equipment down second ramp, which is not true because last year they did grade it. The second thing is, every time you need the beach cleaned, just call me. I call Joe Masillo. She helps me. The third thing is these kids, 27-year-old kids, are young people. They want to get involved in the community. So what they're going to do is every two times a month, they're going to clean Short Beach. And we had a great turnout last week. We had like 30 people, and we got a lot of stuff up. So
is the seaweed removed by them, or it's just, what sort of a cleanup? Is it,
So-
they take it away? Because I know that's the concern with the DCR.
The seaweed,
They don't take it,
I don't think they're going to take away the seaweed, but they did, the next cleanup, they're going to rake the fine, I don't know what they are, they're like sticks, because it gathers all the cigarettes there.
Right.
So they're going to rake all that up and have it removed, and we do have DCR people that are removing the debris, so.
Good, great, thank you.
Thank you, councilors. On Councilor Rizzo's motion as amended, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Madam
Before
President.
everybody runs out, we have a
Madam
couple of
President.
points of information. I'm going to ask Councilor Novoselsky.
Service announcement. Just to let everybody know that during the month of Ramadan, the Moroccan community ran a soccer tournament, and they raised funds to start a scholarship for Bob Hass. So the presentation will be made this Saturday from 3 o'clock on to about 4:30. And we hope everybody will come down there. They do have mementos for all the counselors and school committee people to remember the moment. And Rashad is running it. Our master of ceremonies will be our Honorable Bill. And we hope everybody can make it down and enjoy the afternoon. The festival will be at the parking lot on Shirley Avenue, the municipal lot. And we're looking for a good afternoon, a very interesting afternoon. So hope to see everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll make it brief, but I don't know if the citizens of Revere had the opportunity to read the Boston Herald today. Front page had mention of a Revere native and Revere business owner, Kerry Abrams. She's taking the selfless act of donating a kidney tomorrow morning to former Boston City Councilor John Nucci, who is a family friend. As a fellow donor myself, I know what she's going to be going through tonight and tomorrow and the next few weeks of recovery. So I just wish that herself, Kerry, and John and their families have a speedy recovery. And I really just want to thank her for doing such a great deed. Thank you.
Great points, councilors. On that note, there is no further business. This city council is adjourned until June 25th. However, again, as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 Ways and Means subcommittee meetings that will be held on the 20th and 21st. Then the city council will meet again on the 25th for various subcommittees. Good night, and thank you, everyone.